For the past few months, I have exhaustively talked about the story of Dragon Ball Super Broly with lots of different people, and after thoroughly dissecting the film, potentially repetitively and obsessively as well, I've come to a few conclusions about the story quality of the film. Now, this is no critique of the visuals or the soundtrack. Those elements of the movie absolutely work, and they're some of the best Dragon Ball has had ever or in a very, very long time. This is primarily a story critique and story comparison between the two last big Dragon Ball movies, Resurrection F and Dragon Ball Super Broly. And as the title already suggests, I actually have come to the conclusion, the very soul-crushing conclusion, that Resurrection F actually has a slightly better story than Broly does. And believe me, it physically hurts to say this, because Resurrection F was easily my most detested Dragon Ball thing until the ending of the Future Trunks arc. That is where my despair Event Horizon happened. That was the point I fell into this negative Dragon Ball rabbit hole, and I've never been able to claw my way out of it. To give you guys a proper idea of how much I hated Resurrection F, it was the anime movie equivalent of Mass Effect 3 for me, a film I had great expectations for, absolute faith in, of the execution of its story, and it pretty much all fell on its face. Spectacularly so. But as the old saying goes, appreciate what you have because you can always get something worse, and I legitimately think that we did get something worse with the latest Dragon Ball film. The primary three reasons why I believe Resurrection F is slightly better than Dragon Ball Super Broly comes down to the first act, the utilization of the cast, and doing something with the main characters. The first act speaks for itself. I have on a number of occasions, not just here on YouTube but on the aforementioned Discord server, talked extensively about the pointlessness of the first act belonging to Dragon Ball Super Broly. Minus has nothing to do with absolutely anything in the storyline. It does not inform any of the events, it does not inform any of the characters, it is literally the most useless bullshit fluff you could insert as the beginning of your film. It feels like a TV episode or a TV special awkwardly cut down the middle, then recut and repurposed as the beginning act of a film. But that's not to say that the other stuff works. Oh no. Frieza meeting the Saiyans is easily some of the blandest crap I've ever seen out of the Dragon Ball. It is nothing but a stupid little trivia factoid that would have been fine to say as part of an interview or a guidebook, animated because Toriyama doesn't know how to do exposition. Oh, and we need an origin story for the Scouters because I was really, on the edge of my seat to see the origin of the Scouters after decades, because a device that lets you read battle powers really does need an origin story, am I right? Next thing we'll know that the next Spider-Man film is gonna waste half an hour explaining to us why Spider-Man has a Spider-Man mask. But the biggest problem of the first act isn't just minus, it isn't just pointless scenes that ultimately contribute nothing to the storyline or even to the larger franchise, it is the dialogue. It is all nothing but horrible info dump exposition. There is not a single natural dialogue exchange in this entire first fucking act. It's all boring ciphers vomiting out exposition at one another, most of which people who know Dragon Ball are gonna understand, and people who don't know Dragon Ball are gonna be confused about why this is such a big deal when it once again isn't gonna factor into the later part of the movie. Now, the first act of Resurrection F isn't anything special, but it also isn't offensive. Yes, it does have Pilaf, and yes, it does have them screwing up the number of wishes Shenron has, but I will take that way sooner than I ever will another first act like the one belonging to Dragon Ball Super Broly. It is pointless, it is boring, all of it could have been cut out, and the few bits actually relating to Broly very easily could have been repurposed as flashbacks as part of the second or maybe even the third act. This next point is probably going to be the least ambiguous one because Broly is terrible at utilizing the cast. Remember, when a bad guy used to show up on Earth, people would show up as well to go fight them. But not in this movie, apparently. In this movie, nobody does fucking anything except Piccolo, kind of, who doesn't even have a real purpose in this film because you have Goten and Trunks. Why aren't Goten and Trunks, the guys who use fusion all the time, the ones helping their dads learn fusion? oh, but then we can't do like the cute nod to the Buu arc where Goku and Piccolo do the fusion dance in front of Vegeta, and we get a fan service to fans like that. So is that the only reason Piccolo is in this damn movie? And that's not even getting into some of the other characters. Why isn't Gohan here? Why isn't Android 17 here? These guys are almost as strong as Goku and Vegeta, and they could have a practical frontline purpose to serve in helping to beat Broly, but they're not in the movie whatsoever. Resurrection F had this problem with Yamcha and Chaozu where Roshi is okay to show up, but those two aren't. But at least Resurrection F gives more people a chance to actually do something. Yes, they're fighting mooks, but at least they're doing something. When there's a threat to the Earth, they're there to help defend it. And not to mention the fact that the army fight is actually really cool. We've never really seen Dragon Ball do a fight of that scale before. And we still really haven't gotten anything close to it since Resurrection F. And I still think that battle remains one of the highlights of the movie. Not just because of the good cast utilization, but also because we've just never seen something like that before. And Super Broly doesn't even attempt to do something like this. There's no scene where, I don't know, Goku and Vegeta have to do the fusion dance while Broly is rampaging around them, so we can't have like Gohan or 17 show up to fight Broly to hold him off until Gogeta appears. That would have been so much more interesting and fun to watch over just, hey guys, remember Fusion Reborn Fusion jokes? The same jokes that we already fucking stole from the Buu arc. So now we have Toriyama stealing from Toei, who stole from Toriyama. If that doesn't make you want to smash someone's skull in, I don't know what will. And then we have the protagonist. So, I think that Broly being the protagonist of this movie is such a big load of horse shit, it defies all comprehension. But for the sake of argument, let's assume that Broly is the protagonist of Dragon Ball Super Broly. He develops nothing. We barely learn anything about this guy. He becomes nothing but a raging monster throughout 90% of his screen time, and any attempts to maybe make him interesting, to maybe delve into his relationship with Paragus are completely unexplored. His relationship with Chila and Lemo is just there. It's something we're supposed to be super invested in, but I can never be. And did I mention that he spends 90% of his goddamn screen time just being movie 10 Broly? All he does is scream and rage. We don't see him, I don't know, react to snow with some curiosity. We don't see anything humanizing about him during the battle. We don't see anything at all that gives him any characterization. He's just a big screaming monster they have to beat the shit out of. He doesn't develop. He doesn't change. The whole big thing about him not having any agency in his life is never resolved because even at the end of this fucking movie, Chilai is the one making decisions for him. So the one thing that could make Broly a little bit better is completely wasted. And don't you fucking dare tell me, well, Broly has potential. Yeah, and I might have the potential to invent the next equivalent to Windows. That doesn't fucking mean you should all suck my dick because I could, maybe, if all the planets align, do something that cool in life, maybe. But okay, some people are going to say Broly is not the protagonist of the film, it's Goku and Vegeta. Well, Goku and Vegeta also get nothing to fuck to do in this movie. Vegeta especially gets nothing to do. He's nothing but a short little midget action figure who's there to beat up Broly. Goku does admittedly get one really good scene in Super Broly. It's him trying to reason with Broly. Him saying, I fought a lot of bad guys over the years, I know what a bad guy looks like, you're not one of them, so why don't we cool off, not kill each other, and why don't you stop listening to the bad guys? That's a great scene. That's a really, really great scene. It keeps Goku in character, but also shows us that he's gotten a bit smarter as the years have gone on, a bit genre savvier, and it's a really good evolution of his Buu arc self, who is also able to recognize that Fat Buu was not a bad person, he was just kind of like a naughty kid who didn't know any better. But that's not really a character development thing. It's a cool scene for Goku in isolation, but it doesn't really have anything to do with stuff that happens before the scene or even after it, because Gogeta tries to kill Broly later on anyway, so Goku's whole empathy with Broly is completely wasted and amounts to nothing. And don't you dare use Nagamine's quote of, Goku gets more appreciation for his Saiyan heritage by fighting Broly. That is some of the biggest load of crap I've ever heard, and the fact that it comes from the director of this movie, and it sounds like a stupid fanboy fuck theory that I will see on YouTube, shows you that Nagamine has no idea what the hell kind of storyline he's actually directing. Resurrection F, by comparison, comparison, does try to do something with Goku. It ultimately doesn't amount to much, and the following arcs of the Super TV show completely ignore this, but at least in the confines of the film, they try to do something with it. They comment on Vegeta always overthinking things. They comment on Goku being kind of a naive idiot. They also try to use Golden Frieza as a contrast between himself and Goku and Vegeta to kind of create this theme of, if you just superficially improve yourself, you're not really improving yourself, and you're just gonna make the same mistakes anyway, which was kind of the whole thematic point of Whis' comments to Goku and Vegeta and the superficial nature of Golden Frieza's design. It's not executed very well, and it's really laughable to use Golden Frieza as a superficial alteration when Super Saiyan Blue is just the same thing except for Goku and Vegeta. And while I can poke more holes into this whole idea of Goku and Vegeta needing to face their flaws by training with Golden Frieza, at least Toriyama tried to do something. He at least tried to use the antagonist to propel them into something new or different, or to use the bad guy as a catalyst for some kind of development. It ultimately goes nowhere, but at least he showed an interest in fucking trying something. Which is more than I can say for Goku and Vegeta in Super Broly, or Broly himself from the same movie. So whichever way you slice it, regardless of who you think is the protagonist of the film, none of them get anything of substantive worth to do. And finally, I would like to conclude this video by giving this closing statement. Dragon Ball Super Broly is once again a fantastically animated film. It has some of the best people in the anime industry working on it. It has a glorious soundtrack from Sumitomo, but these audiovisual elements cannot compensate for what is ultimately a subpar storyline at best. And be honest with yourself. If Dragon Ball Super Broly had the same level of direction, the same level of animation, and the same level of presentation as Battle of Gods or Resurrection F did, would you really like it even a 10th or 100th as much as you potentially already do? I don't think so.